Alright, chapter 12 is called That's the Way We Are. Germans had never assumed responsibility of sovereignty over their government before. Average Germans don't feel that they have political power the way Americans do. They don't feel that their vote matters or that their government is representative of them. German universities don't teach modern politics. In the whole state of Hesse, there was not a single poli-sci course offered. Germans were so accustomed to doing what they're told that they didn't really know what to do when they weren't told what to do. Previous wars and revolutions had driven away many of Germany's best thinkers and political liberals, and what was left behind were the conformists, which is true if you think about the Germans that we know about here in the US. Einstein is kind of one of the examples that comes to mind. The Germans say that they require an, quote, iron hand, unquote, to rule them. Chapter 13, which is called But Then It Was Too Late. They became accustomed to being governed by surprise with decisions made in secret, with secret info, during the war especially. A quote from the book was, quote, "They come for the communist, the socialist, the schools, the Jews, etc. When they came, and I did nothing. When they came for me and I did something, it was too late." Once the war began, the Nazis could do anything people felt was necessary to win the war, and they did things that they wouldn't have tried before in a non-war time. Chapter 14 is called Collective Shame. All of the people interviewed felt bad, but very few were genuinely ashamed of what Germany had done. We as Americans want Germans to admit their hypocrisy, when so few Americans will admit their own hypocrisy with regard to segregation in the Japanese internment camps. And the Germans who were interviewed brought that up. The author also notes that feeling bad and feeling like you should be punished are very different things. Chapter 15 is called The Furies. And there's a colon there, and then it says Heinrich Hildebrandt. He joined to keep his job and to be promoted. He tried to teach so that his students could see that he wasn't really a Nazi, but he wouldn't risk his job and come out as an anti-Nazi. When they couldn't find a place for someone, they would put them in education, they being the Nazi leadership. And the Nazi, quote, educators were mostly illiterate from the Minister of Education on down. Putting ignorant people in charge of education was one of the Nazis' ways of humiliating the educators and arousing public contempt for education. Books were either recommended or forbidden based on the author's race and politics. Subjects like biology, history, and economics were completely rewritten, and even the math problems students did were written with Nazi bias. The example they gave was a Jew lends money at 12% interest, and the problem was to figure out how much money they owed. Hildebrandt tried to help his Jewish friends, but most quit seeing him, and they wouldn't talk openly around him, so he wasn't able to help very many. I'm going to stop and upload there.